Okay, here's how it all started. Not with a bang, but with a piece of paper taped to my apartment door. I remember it so clearly. It was a Tuesday, late afternoon. I'd just gotten home from physical therapy, still moving a little stiffly 3 months out from my surgery. The mail was usually just junk, but this envelope was thick, official-looking, and had my landlord's logo. My heart started thumping before I even opened it. Eviction notice. The words hit me like a physical blow. My rent check had bounced. I stared at it, then at the date. It was for this month. My rent always went out like clockwork. I'm meticulous with my finances, always have been. My emergency fund was robust. My checking account always had a healthy buffer. This made no sense. I fumbled for my phone, my fingers shaking a little as I logged into my banking app. It took a moment for the numbers to load, and then I saw it. The balance. It wasn't just low. It was a gaping black hole. My checking account, which usually held around $12,000 for rent, bills, and a cushion, was sitting at a pathetic $347, and my savings? Gone. All of it. Every single one of the $11,000 I'd painstakingly saved over years. My breath hitched. $11,000 just vanished. My mind immediately flashed back 3 months. The surgery. It had been major, a long recovery. I'm Brinley, by the way, 29 years old, and up until that Tuesday I thought I had my life pretty well sorted. Independent. Maybe a little too much so, especially when it came to my family. But after the operation, I was practically bedridden for weeks. My mom, Patricia, then 54, had offered to help. She'd always been the martyr type, the one who sacrificed everything for her children. I'd been hesitant, but I was in no state to argue. I'd given her limited access to my debit card and online banking login, strictly for groceries, prescriptions, and maybe a few takeout meals. Nothing else. I'd made that crystal clear. Just enough to keep me alive, Mom, I'd joked weakly from my hospital bed. She'd smiled, patted my hand, and promised. Now, looking at my bank statement, that promise felt like a punch to the gut. I scrolled through the transactions, my eyes blurring. Large withdrawals, multiple transfers to unfamiliar accounts, charges from places I'd never heard of. It was a blur of numbers, each one a fresh stab. I called Patricia. My voice was tight, strained. Mom, my rent check bounced. What happened to my money? There was a pause on the other end, a little too long. Then her voice, smooth and practiced. Oh, Brinley, honey, don't worry about it. It was for the family, a family emergency. You were so out of it after the surgery, I didn't want to burden you. A family emergency, I repeated, my grip tightening on the phone. What kind of emergency costs $11,000? And why didn't you tell me? It was complicated, sweetie. You'll understand when you have your own husband one day, and a family to take care of, she said, her tone dismissive, as if my single status somehow invalidated my right to my own money. It's all handled now. Just a little hiccup. We'll talk about it later. And then, just like that, she changed the subject, asking about my physical therapy, how I was sleeping. The classic Patricia maneuver. Deflect, gaslight, then pivot to being the caring mother. I ended the call feeling hollowed out, but something in her voice, that practiced calm, set off alarm bells. I went back to my banking app, scrolling further, looking for anything that wasn't groceries or prescriptions. And there it was, a transaction that made my stomach clench. Serenity Spa and Wellness Center. VIP package. Dated 3 days after my operation. 3 days after I was cut open, doped up, and barely able to lift my head. This wasn't about groceries. This wasn't about a family emergency. This was something else entirely. And I was going to find out exactly what. The eviction notice and that spa charge had me reeling, but not for long. My initial shock quickly morphed into a cold, hard resolve. I wasn't going to just sit there and let Patricia's vague, family emergency excuse float in the air. I needed facts. And for facts, I called Robin. Robin Harper, 31, has been my best friend since college, and conveniently, she's also a financial advisor. She's sharp, no nonsense, and has seen me through enough family drama to know when I'm not just venting, but genuinely needing a battle plan. I called her the moment I saw that spa charge. "They drained your account, Brinley?" she asked, her voice tight with disbelief, after I'd laid out the bare bones of it. $11,000? While you were recovering? Every last cent of my savings, and most of my checking, I confirmed, my voice flat. And my landlord isn't happy. I need to figure out where it went, exactly. Robin was at my apartment within the hour, armed with her laptop and a serious expression. We sat at my kitchen table, my bank statements spread out like a morbid treasure map. She pulled up the digital versions on her screen, cross-referencing, highlighting. "Okay, let's start from 3 months ago, the day after your surgery," she said, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "Here's that Serenity Spa charge you mentioned, $450, VIP couples package. Interesting." My stomach churned. A couples package while I was lying in a hospital bed. We scrolled. The pattern emerged quickly, and it wasn't pretty. There were large withdrawals, yes, but also a string of direct purchases. A Form $200 charge from Elite Furnishings. Another for $800 from Bridal Bliss Boutique. Multiple charges for high-end restaurants, concert tickets, even a series of Uber rides that ended at various upscale hotels across the city. This wasn't a family emergency. This was a shopping spree. "Wait," Robin said, pointing at a transaction. "Who's Emiliano Wright? There are several transfers to an account under that name, and a few Venmo payments." My blood ran cold. Emiliano Wright. That was Paris's new husband. My younger sister, Paris 26, had just gotten married a few months ago. Her wedding had been a ridiculously lavish affair, far beyond what Emiliano, a junior marketing manager, could afford, and even beyond what Paris, a part-time yoga instructor, could contribute. Patricia had been vague about how they were funding it all, just saying she was helping out. I'd been too focused on my own recovery to pay much attention. "Emiliano is Paris's husband," I told Robin, my voice barely a whisper. "They just got back from their honeymoon in Greece." Robin's eyes narrowed. "Greece, huh? Let's see. Ah, here we go. A $3,000 transfer to Travel Lux Agency 2 weeks before their wedding, and a $1,500 charge for Athens Grand Hotel around the same time." It was all starting to click into place, a sickeningly clear picture. My money hadn't gone to some crisis. It had gone to fund my sister's extravagant lifestyle. "I need to see Paris," I decided, pushing my chair back. Not to confront her, just to talk. See what she says. The next day, I called Paris. "Hey, sis," I said, trying to sound casual. "Haven't properly caught up since the wedding. How about coffee?" She agreed, sounding genuinely pleased. We met at a trendy cafe downtown. Paris, always dramatic and entitled, was radiating newlywed bliss. She immediately launched into a monologue about her honeymoon. "Oh, Brinley, Greece was divine!" she gushed, sipping her latte. "Emiliano and I had the most incredible time. We did a private yacht tour around Santorini, and the spa at our hotel was out of this world. We even got this amazing couples package, all massages and facials. It was exactly what we needed after all the wedding stress." She pulled out her phone, swiping through photos. Glittering blue water, whitewashed buildings, and then a selfie of her and Emiliano, wrapped in plush robes, looking utterly relaxed. The background clearly showed the interior of a high-end spa. My heart hammered against my ribs, but I kept my face neutral. "Sounds amazing," I managed. "Must have cost a fortune." Paris waved a dismissive hand. "Oh, you know, Mom. She helped us out. Said it was a wedding gift, a little something extra to make sure we had the perfect start. She's always so generous." Generous with my money, I thought, a cold fury building inside me. I nodded, feigning interest as she continued to brag about their new espresso machine, not on any registry, I noted, and the designer couch they'd just bought for their new apartment. When I got home, I pulled up my bank statements again. I zoomed in on the Serenity Spa and Wellness Center charge from 3 months ago, and there it was, in the small print below the transaction details, a line I hadn't noticed before. Customer, Brinley Hamilton. And below that, a confirmation number for a VIP couples spa package. It wasn't just a random spa charge. It was a charge under my name for a couples package, used while I was incapacitated. And Paris had just described her amazing couples package in Greece. The pieces clicked with a sickening finality. This wasn't a family emergency. This was a calculated theft, disguised as a gift, funded by my life savings. And they hadn't even bothered to hide it properly. The rage I felt after that conversation with Paris, after seeing my own name on that spa receipt, was a cold, quiet kind of fury. It wasn't the kind that made me want to scream or throw things. It was the kind that made me want to sit down, make a list, and methodically dismantle everything. But first, I needed to test the waters with Patricia again. I called her a couple of days later, trying to keep my voice light, almost confused. "Hey, Mom," I started. "I was just looking through my bank statements, trying to figure out what happened with the rent check. There are a few charges I don't recognize, like this one from Elite Furnishings for $1,200, and a few transfers to an Emiliano Wright." There was a beat of silence on her end. Then, her voice dripping with feigned concern. "Oh, honey, don't you worry your pretty little head about those things. As I told you, it was a family matter, a very sensitive one. You were just so unwell after your surgery. I handled it all for you. It's all taken care of." "But, Mom, it's my money," I pressed, trying to sound genuinely perplexed, not accusatory. "And it's a lot of money. I just need to understand what happened. I'm trying to get my finances back in order." She sighed, a long put-upon sound that always meant she was about to play the martyr. "Brinley, you're 29 years old. You're single. You don't have a husband, a family of your own to worry about. You'll understand when you have your own husband one day, and real responsibilities. Sometimes family has to help family, and it's not always convenient. I did what I had to do for us." "For us?" I repeated, my voice still carefully neutral. "Or for Paris and Emiliano?" Another sigh. "Honestly, Brinley, you're being dramatic. You're recovered now, aren't you? The money is gone. Let's just move on. I don't want to talk about this anymore. It was stressful enough dealing with it while you were sick." The conversation ended there, as they always did when Patricia didn't want to be questioned. Her deflection was a brick wall, but her words confirmed everything I suspected. "You'll understand when you have your own husband one day." It was her classic dismissal, designed to make me feel immature and alone, and to justify her actions by implying I didn't have a real family yet. But her words also solidified my resolve. I wasn't going to move on. I was going to document every single cent. I bought a new binder, a pack of colored tabs, and a ream of paper. I printed out every single bank statement, every credit card transaction from the past 6 months. I highlighted every suspicious charge, every large withdrawal, every transfer to Emiliano's account. I cross-referenced them with dates, times, and notes from my conversations with Patricia and Paris. I took screenshots of Paris's social media posts about her honeymoon, her new furniture, her espresso machine. I was building a case, not for a screaming match, but for a quiet, irrefutable presentation of facts. Robin came over again a few days later, bringing coffee and a fresh perspective. She watched me methodically organize my binder, tabs sticking out at every angle. "You're going full detective, aren't you?" she observed, a hint of admiration in her voice. "Someone has to," I muttered, circling a charge for a high-end appliance store. "They're not even trying to hide it. It's like they think I'm too stupid or too sick to notice." "They probably do," Robin said grimly. "Patricia's always been good at making you feel like you're overreacting." "But this isn't an overreaction, Bryn. This is theft. And it's not the first time she's pulled something like this, is it?" I paused. "What do you mean?" "Well, remember when your grandmother died? Your maternal grandmother, I mean. She left that trust fund, didn't she? The one Patricia always said was for the family, but only she could access. You were still in high school then, right?" I nodded slowly. My grandmother, Patricia's mother, had passed away when I was 16. She'd always been quietly supportive of my education. I remembered Patricia mentioning a small inheritance, but she'd always been very cagey about the details, saying it was tied up or for future family needs. "Yeah," I said. "She always said it was a small amount and that she was managing it. Why?" Robin leaned forward. "Well, sometimes these things aren't as straightforward as they seem, especially with family. My advice? You need to check the legal status of that inheritance fund. Like, really check it. Who's the actual trustee? Who has power of attorney? Sometimes people say one thing, but the legal documents say another. It was a long shot, but it felt right. Another avenue to explore, another piece of the puzzle. I made a note on a fresh page in my binder. Research Grandma's inheritance fund. The next morning, I made some calls. It took a few tries, navigating automated systems and explaining my relationship to the deceased. Finally, I got through to a paralegal at the law firm that had handled my grandmother's estate. I gave them my grandmother's full name, her date of death, and explained I was her granddaughter, trying to understand the details of the inheritance fund. The paralegal was helpful, if a little surprised by my query. She pulled up the file. "Yes, Ms. Hamilton, your grandmother, bless her heart, was very specific. She set up a trust for her grandchildren's education and future. It was meant to be managed by a trustee until the beneficiaries reached a certain age, or for specific purposes." "And who was the trustee?" I asked. holding my breath. Initially, it was your grandmother's brother, Miguel Steele, she said. My Uncle Miguel. I hadn't seen him in years. He and Patricia had a massive falling out years ago. Something about money, I vaguely recalled. But he stepped down due to personal reasons shortly after the will was executed. The power of attorney then transferred to the primary beneficiary, which, according to the documents, is you, Brinley Hamilton, upon reaching the age of 25. My hand froze, mid-air, as I was about to write something down. Wait. Me? I'm the controlling power of attorney. Yes, Ms. Hamilton. Since your 25th birthday, you've had full legal control over the fund. Did you not receive the notification letters? The notification letters. I remembered a stack of official-looking mail that had arrived around my 25th birthday, all addressed to me. Patricia had intercepted them, of course. Just boring legal stuff, honey, she'd said, waving them away. I'll handle it. My grandmother's inheritance fund. My money, again. And Patricia had been telling me for years that she was managing it, that it was for the family. The phone felt heavy in my hand. This wasn't just $11,000. This was a pattern. A deep, insidious pattern of financial control and deception. And I had just stumbled upon the biggest weapon of all. Finding out I was the legal power of attorney over my grandmother's inheritance fund, the one Patricia had always claimed she controlled, was like finding a hidden lever in a locked room. It didn't just explain the present, it cast a chilling light on the past. The paralegal had mentioned my Uncle Miguel Steele as the initial trustee. He was Patricia's younger brother, 40 years old, and someone I hadn't seen since I was a teenager. He'd been effectively excommunicated from the family after a huge fight with Patricia. Something about money, I vaguely remembered. Now, I needed to talk to him. It took some digging to find his number. He lived a couple of states away, having moved shortly after the family rift. I called, half expecting him not to answer or to hang up, but he picked up on the second ring. Uncle Miguel? It's Brinley, Patricia's daughter. There was a long pause, then a cautious voice. Brinley. Wow, it's been a long time. Everything all right? Not exactly, I said, and then, in a measured tone, I explained about my bank account, the missing $11,000, and my recent discovery about Grandma's inheritance fund. I mentioned the paralegal's name, the trust, and my unexpected role as power of attorney. He listened patiently, without interrupting. When I finished, there was another silence. Then a weary sigh. I knew it. I knew she'd do something like this eventually. He agreed to meet me. He was coming to the city for a business trip the following week, and we arranged to have coffee at a quiet spot near my apartment. When I saw him, he looked tired, but his eyes were sharp. He ordered a black coffee, no sugar, just like I remembered. So, he began, stirring his coffee, you found out about the trust. Your grandmother was a smart woman. She knew Patricia. That's why she put me as the initial trustee, and then you, when you came of age. She wanted that money to go to you, Brinley, for your education, your future, not for Patricia's whims. Whims, I prompted, my voice low. He met my gaze. This has happened before, Brinley. You just never knew. After your grandmother died, there was a substantial amount in that fund. It was meant to be your college fund. Patricia got her hands on it. She told everyone it was tied up or needed for family emergencies. But it wasn't. She used it to bail out a failed business venture of hers, and then to fund Paris's private school tuition and her expensive hobbies. You ended up taking out student loans, didn't you? My blood ran cold. He was right. I'd taken out loans for college, thinking my parents couldn't afford to help much. Patricia had always said, "We're doing our best, honey." College is expensive. The betrayal was deeper than I'd imagined. It wasn't just $11,000. It was my past, too. I tried to stop her back then, Miguel continued, his voice heavy. That's what our big fight was about. I told her what she was doing was wrong, that it was theft. She spun it, of course. Told your father I was trying to steal from the family, that I was jealous. She's a master manipulator. She financially cripples anyone who questions her authority, anyone who stands in her way. She makes them out to be the villain. And Dad? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Did he know? Miguel looked away, out the window. Eric, your father, he knew enough. He saw what she was doing, but he never stood up to her. He just buried himself in work, pretended not to see. It was easier for him to be passive than to confront Patricia. He enabled her, Brinley. He always has. The image of my father, Eric, 60, always quiet, always retreating into his study or his work, suddenly made perfect, painful sense. He wasn't just distant, he was complicit through inaction. So what do I do now? I asked, my voice flat. You freeze that account, Brinley. Immediately. And you get a lawyer. Don't let her touch another cent of what's rightfully yours. I didn't need to be told twice. As soon as I got home, I called the law firm again. I explained the situation, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. I told them I wanted to exercise my full power of attorney, to review all transactions, and to freeze the account immediately pending further investigation. They confirmed they could do that, and began the process. While I was on the phone with the law firm, I also initiated a formal fraud report with my bank regarding the $11,000 from my personal accounts. I had all the printouts, the dates, the names. It was a clear case of unauthorized access and theft. As the paralegal was confirming the freeze on the inheritance account, she mentioned something that made my blood run cold. Oh, and Miss Hamilton, she said, almost as an afterthought. We received a request to change the mailing address for the account statements to a new address in the city. It was submitted about 3 weeks ago, but we hadn't processed it yet, pending your confirmation as power of attorney. What was the address? I asked, my voice tight. She read it out. It was Paris and Emiliano's new address, the one Paris had bragged about, the one with the designer furniture. Less than a month ago. Patricia hadn't just stolen my savings. She'd been actively trying to gain control of my inheritance too, likely to fund Paris's new life even further. She was relentless. But now, I had the facts, and I had the power. The discovery that Patricia had tried to reroute my inheritance fund to Paris's address was the final piece of the puzzle. It wasn't just about the $11,000. It was about a lifetime of manipulation, a pattern of financial abuse that had gone unchecked. My anger hardened into something cold and precise. I wasn't interested in yelling. I was interested in consequences. The first thing I did was call my bank's fraud department again, this time with a more detailed report. I mentioned the cross-account activity, the transfers to Emiliano Wright's account, and the unauthorized use of my debit card. I also anonymously tipped them off about the attempted address change on the inheritance account, giving them enough information to connect the dots without directly implicating myself in the inheritance fund's legal details just yet. I wanted them to see a pattern of suspicious financial activity originating from Patricia's sphere. My apartment became a war room. I printed out every single transaction, every email, every text message that hinted at the truth. I bought more colored tabs, a new set of highlighters. Each piece of evidence was meticulously organized. Bank statements, credit card bills, screenshots of Paris's social media posts, even a photo of the eviction notice. I categorized them by type of expense, travel, furniture, dining, spa, and then by recipient. The folder for Paris and Emiliano's lavish lifestyle was thickest. Robin came over again, bringing takeout and a quiet sense of support. She watched me work, her expression grim. "You're really going for it, aren't you?" she said, gesturing to the stacks of paper. "They left me with $340 in my checking account while I was recovering from major surgery, Robin," I said, my voice flat. "They tried to steal my inheritance. This isn't just about money anymore. This is about proving that actions have consequences, even for family." I spent hours, days, meticulously going through everything. The dates, the amounts, the descriptions. I found a charge for a high-end espresso machine from a specialty store, dated a week after Paris had bragged about her new one. I found receipts for designer clothes, for expensive dinners, all tagged with my card number. The feedback loop from Paris and Patricia was almost comical in its obliviousness. Paris kept posting on Instagram, humble bragging about her new home essentials, including a photo of the sleek silver espresso machine that I now knew was purchased with my money. Patricia, meanwhile, posted vague, martyr-like updates on Facebook about family sacrifices and doing what's best for your children, even when it's hard. It was all so transparent, so infuriating. I knew I couldn't just send them a letter from a lawyer. Patricia would spin it, gaslight, play the victim. Paris would throw a tantrum. My father, Eric, would retreat further. No, this needed to be delivered personally, with undeniable proof. I decided on a family lunch, a Sunday gathering, just like old times. I called Patricia. "Hey, Mom," I said, trying to sound like I was moving on, putting the past behind me. "I was thinking it's been a while since we all had a proper family meal. How about Sunday? My treat." She sounded delighted, completely oblivious. "Oh, Brintley, darling, that's a wonderful idea. Just what we need. I'll tell Paris and Emiliano. Your father will be thrilled." My father. Eric. He was 60 now, still distant, still avoiding conflict. I wondered if he'd finally look me in the eye when the truth came out. I kept working, refining my presentation. I didn't just want to show them the charges. I wanted to show them the pattern, the audacity, the sheer disregard for my well-being. The final credit card transaction I found was a deposit to Emiliano's crypto wallet. $700. It was dated just a few days before I found the eviction notice. My stomach dropped as I saw the memo line, typed in what must have been Patricia's hand. "Thanks from B." Thanks from B. As in Brinley. My name, used to cover their tracks, to make it look like I was willingly funding their lives. It was the ultimate insult, the final piece of proof that this wasn't just a mistake or a family emergency. It was a deliberate, calculated act of theft, shrouded in a web of lies, and it was time for them to face the music. Sunday arrived, bright and deceptively cheerful. I'd chosen a nice, quiet restaurant, the kind with linen tablecloths and hushed conversations. My treat, as I'd told Patricia. She'd loved that. When I walked in, they were already there, seated at a round table. Patricia, 54, looked radiant in a new dress, probably bought with some of my money. Eric, 60, my father, sat beside her, already looking a little bored, lost in his own thoughts. Across from them were Paris, 26, and Emiliano, 30. Paris was animated, laughing loudly at something Emiliano had said, her hand resting casually on his arm. They looked every inch the golden couple, basking in their newlywed glow. They greeted me warmly, almost too warmly. Patricia gave me a hug, a little too tight, a little too long. "Brinley, darling, so glad you could make it. It's been too long since we all had a proper family meal." "It has," I agreed, my voice calm, flat. I took the empty seat opposite Paris, placing my large tote bag carefully on the floor beside my chair. Inside, neatly stacked and tabbed, were months of my life, meticulously documented. We ordered drinks. Patricia launched into a story about a new neighbor. Paris interjected with anecdotes about her yoga classes. Emiliano chimed in with a charming, irrelevant comment about crypto trends. Eric nodded along, occasionally grunting. It was the usual family dynamic, a cacophony of self-absorbed chatter that I usually tuned out. Today, I let it wash over me, a strange calm settling over my nerves. When the waiter brought our appetizers, I took a deep breath. This was it. "So," I began, my voice cutting through Paris's story about a difficult student. Everyone looked at me, surprised by my sudden interjection. "I wanted to talk about something important." Patricia's smile faltered slightly. "Oh, Brinley, can it wait? We're having such a lovely time." "No, Mom, it can't." My gaze swept across their faces, lingering briefly on each one. Paris, still smiling, but a flicker of annoyance in her eyes. Emiliano, raising an eyebrow, sensing a shift. Eric, finally looking up from his plate, a faint crease forming between his brows. Patricia, her mouth tightening, her eyes narrowing. I reached down into my tote bag. The rustle of paper was the only sound in the sudden silence. I pulled out the first folder, a thick one, neatly tabbed. Then another, and another. I placed them on the table, sliding them towards each person. "These are for you," I said, my voice even, devoid of emotion. "Consider them a belated wedding gift, Paris. And a housewarming gift, Emiliano." Paris picked up the folder closest to her, her brow furrowing. "What is this, Brinley?" "Open it," I instructed. Slowly, hesitantly, they did. Patricia's hands trembled slightly as she opened hers. Eric just stared at the cover of his, which read, "Unauthorized Transactions, Brinley Hamilton." "Inside," I continued, my voice clear and steady, "you'll find a detailed accounting of how my $11,000 in life savings disappeared from my bank account over the past 3 months, while I was recovering from major surgery." I paused, letting that sink in. "You'll find the receipt for the VIP Couples Spa package at the Serenity Spa, dated 3 days after my operation, used by you, Paris, and Emiliano for your pre-honeymoon relaxation. You'll see the charges from Elite Furnishings for your new couch, Emiliano, the Bridal Bliss Boutique, Paris, the concert tickets, the high-end restaurant meals, the Uber rides to those hotels." I watched their faces. Paris's eyes widened, then darted to Emiliano, who had gone pale. Emiliano's charming facade cracked, replaced by a look of stunned disbelief and dawning horror. Eric slowly lifted his head, his gaze fixed on the papers, his face a mask of shame. "And the transfers to Emiliano's crypto wallet," I added, my voice cutting through the silence like a knife. $700, with the memo line, "Thanks from B." "A nice touch, Mom. Very subtle." Patricia's face was ashen, her lips pressed into a thin, white line. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. "This," I said, gesturing to the folders, "is where your lavish honeymoon came from. Your spa days, that flat-screen TV, that espresso machine you bragged about, Paris, that gift from B that wasn't a gift at all." The room was utterly silent. The gentle clinking of cutlery from other tables seemed impossibly loud. Paris finally found her voice, a strangled whisper. What is this? This isn't... Mom, what is she talking about?" Patricia couldn't speak. She just stared at me, her eyes wide, a desperate, cornered look in them. "I've filed bank fraud claims," I stated, my voice unwavering. "I've frozen the inheritance account that Grandma left for me, the one you tried to reroute to Paris's address last month, Mom. I've submitted a police report for theft and unauthorized use of my financial accounts. The law will take it from here." I pushed my chair back, the scrape loud in the quiet restaurant. I stood up, looking down at them. Patricia finally managed to speak, her voice trembling, a raw, wounded sound. "Brinley," she choked out, tears welling in her eyes. "How could you do this to us?" I met her gaze, my own eyes cold and clear. "Exactly what you did to me." The silence at the restaurant, after I dropped those folders on the table, felt like a physical thing. It followed me out the door, into the street, and all the way back to my apartment. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I knew the bomb had landed. The fallout started almost immediately, a slow, agonizing drip of their desperation. Paris, true to form, went straight to social media. Within hours of the lunch, she posted a cryptic Instagram story, a black screen with white text that read, "Betrayal comes in suits, not just from enemies. Sometimes it's family." She didn't tag me, of course, but it was clearly aimed. It was classic Paris, dramatic, vague, and designed to elicit sympathy without ever taking responsibility. My phone buzzed with texts from mutual acquaintances asking if everything was okay, if Paris was having a meltdown. I ignored them all. Patricia, on the other hand, went for direct assault. My phone started ringing before I'd even finished putting away my binder. Call after call, text after text. I let them all go to voicemail. Her messages escalated from feigned concern to wounded indignation, then to outright rage. "Brinley, how could you do this? To your own mother. We were trying to help you." "This is a misunderstanding, honey. You're overreacting. You always do." "You're destroying this family. Do you know what you've done?" "Call me back, Brinley. We need to talk this through. Don't be so dramatic." It was the same old song and dance, the gaslighting, the victim blaming, but this time it didn't touch me. I felt nothing but a cool detachment. I'd spent months meticulously documenting their lies. Her words were just noise. My father, Eric, usually the master of avoidance, sent me a single, short email 2 days later. It read, "Brinley, I'm so sorry. I should have done more. Please, can we talk?" It was the most direct apology I'd ever received from him, but it was too little, too late. Years of passive enabling, years of burying his head in the sand while Patricia ran roughshod over everyone, especially me. I didn't reply. What was there to talk about? The damage was done, and he had stood by and watched it happen. Emiliano, surprisingly, tried a different tactic. He messaged me on LinkedIn, of all places. Brinley, I'm so sorry about all of this. Paris can be a lot. She made a lot of decisions without consulting me. I really had no idea where the money was coming from. Can we talk? I want to make this right. I almost laughed. The charming public facade, crumbling under pressure, blaming Paris, of course. He'd benefited from every single stolen dollar, from the honeymoon to the crypto deposit. I blocked him without a reply. Robin called me a few times a day, checking in. How are you holding up? She'd ask. Fine, I'd say. Just quiet. It's weird, Robin. I thought I'd feel angry or sad, but I just feel empty and determined. That's good, she'd replied. Keep that distance. Don't let them pull you back in. They'll try every trick in the book to manipulate you into dropping this. And they did. The calls, the texts, the passive-aggressive social media posts. But I held firm. My focus was on the legal process. A week after the Sunday lunch, the first official communications started rolling in. I received a letter from my bank's fraud department, confirming they were investigating the unauthorized transactions and had frozen the accounts involved. They requested an interview to go over my detailed report. I scheduled it immediately. Then came the bigger news. My Uncle Miguel called me. Brinley, he said, his voice grim. My lawyer just heard through the grapevine. Patricia is being audited. A full financial audit. Apparently, the bank fraud report you filed triggered some flags, and they're looking into several large, unexplained transfers and cash withdrawals over the past year. A full audit. That was more than I'd hoped for. It meant the authorities weren't just looking at my $11,000, but at Patricia's entire financial history. The web of lies was starting to unravel for good. The biggest twist, though, came in the mail a few days later. A crisp, official-looking letter from a major credit card company. It was addressed to me. I opened it, confused. It was a rejection letter for a new credit card application. My heart hammered. I hadn't applied for any new credit cards. I scanned the details. The application had been submitted online, using my name, my date of birth, and my social security number. The mailing address provided for the new card. Paris and Emiliano's new apartment. The same address Patricia had tried to reroute my inheritance statements to. The reason for the rejection was clear. Credit frozen due to recent fraud alert. My own vigilance, my own actions, had inadvertently protected me from yet another attempt at financial abuse. Paris, desperate for funds, had tried to open a credit card in my name, likely with Patricia's knowledge or encouragement. But my credit was frozen, thanks to the fraud report I'd filed. They were truly desperate. And they were still trying to use me. But their well had run dry. The letter about Paris trying to open a credit card in my name and getting declined because my credit was frozen was the final, pathetic act of their desperation. It didn't make me angry. It just solidified my resolve. They weren't just thieves. They were relentless, entitled, and utterly incapable of taking responsibility. A few days later, a group message popped up on my phone. It was from Patricia, but Paris and Eric were also included. Emiliano was conspicuously absent. The message read, Brinley, We are so sorry. We truly are. This has been a terrible misunderstanding. We know we made mistakes. We'll pay you back every single dollar, we promise. Just please unfreeze the inheritance account. We need access to it. We're a family. We can work this out. It was a joint plea, a coordinated effort. The "we're sorry" felt hollow, a tactic to get what they wanted. They weren't sorry for what they did. They were sorry they got caught and sorry for the consequences. And they still thought they could manipulate me with the idea of family. I didn't reply. Not for a day. Not for 2 days. I let their message sit there, unread, a testament to their dwindling power. I went about my life. I paid my rent now that my finances were back in order. I went to physical therapy. I worked. The quiet in my apartment, once a sign of my isolation, now felt like a sanctuary. On the 3rd day, I drafted my reply. I typed it slowly, carefully, every word chosen with precision. I didn't use any emotional language. No anger, no accusations, just facts. To Patricia, Paris, and Eric, I wrote. Your message has been received. There is no misunderstanding. The facts are clear, and they are now in the hands of the authorities. The bank fraud claims and police report will proceed as filed. The inheritance account will remain frozen and under my legal control. I am formally withdrawing from this family. Expect full legal proceedings to follow regarding the recovery of the stolen funds and any further unauthorized financial activity. Do not contact me again. I hit send. There was no hesitation, no second thoughts, just a quiet click. My phone didn't ring after that. The group chat remained silent. The constant barrage of calls and texts from Patricia stopped. Paris's Instagram went private. The silence was absolute. I walked through my apartment, a sense of lightness settling over me. The binder, once a symbol of my pain and anger, now sat neatly on my shelf, a testament to my meticulousness, my resolve. It wasn't a burden anymore. It was proof. I thought about the years of Patricia's manipulation, Paris's entitlement, Eric's enabling, the way they had always treated me as an afterthought, as a resource to be exploited. I thought about the $11,000 and the inheritance fund and the college loans I'd taken out because my own mother had stolen my future. But I wasn't thinking about it with rage or bitterness. I was thinking about it with a profound sense of closure. I wasn't lonely. I was free. Free from the constant anxiety of their demands. Free from the insidious gaslighting. Free from the expectation that I would always be the one to give, to forgive, to forget. People always say revenge leaves you empty. They've never been this full of proof.